What are some best practices to ensure all voices are heard and considered during sprint planning? I always struggle when somebody asks me a best practice question, because best practice implies there is one way of doing something. And there's many ways, and it's contextual, and it will depend on the people in the room, in the team. But how do we get them taking part? Very often sprint planning is done as this big town hall. It's kind of a free-for-all, and that doesn't actually work for that many people. The people it works incredibly well for, because they dominate the room, they get to do all the talking, and maybe that's what they want. So the first tip that I'll give you is break the groups down. This is so obvious. I don't know why we don't do it more, why we don't fall to it as a default. If I've got 9 people in the room and 2 people are talking, well, what are the other 7 doing? Now, if I take those 9 people and split them into 3 groups of 3, well, I can't have 2 people talking, because I've got to need at least 3 just to have a conversation in a group. But what's more likely to happen is a conversation starts between those 3. It's a smaller space. People do feel more comfortable, and people like myself, the extroverts, those who are shyer, those who are quieter, can feel safer to talk to 1 or 2 people and be heard. And the way that we would do it is then combining groups. Now, if my 9 turning into 3 doesn't really help me for this example, but what we do is we take one group and we combine it with another group. And so we have 3 people having a chat, and they come up with their ideas. Maybe they're working out how to solve a particular item, and they combine their ideas with somebody else. And so 2 groups come together, and now we have 6. The people who are quieter may not speak in that slightly larger group. Maybe that's over their comfort zone and they don't want to. But their voice can still be heard because it's been heard in the smaller group, and people can take that conversation forwards on their behalf. You often hear people say, oh, well, John had this really good idea. Now, John may not want to say it, but it is being said. Okay? Their voice is in the room now, and we're going to be better for it. So you will come across things like liberating structures, 1, 2, 4, all. And this is really, we've been doing it for a long time. Sit down and work out how you would do it individually. 1. 2 individuals come together. That's this one, 2. See, I can do maths. 2 people come together, share ideas. Maybe there's a better one. Maybe there's a third way. You don't know. Now combine those 2s to become 4. Right? So your idea was thought of on your own, tested against somebody else's. Together, you're taking that into the group of 4, and the likelihood is at least one person in that group of 4 can represent it to the whole team. So again, we've got ways of creating space, creating safety for people to be heard, giving them that opportunity to have a voice. And for me, this is actually the simplest and most effective way, is think about facilitation. The job of a facilitator at the end of the day is not only to keep people on track, it's also to encourage discussion, encourage that voice into the room. And we can do that through very simple tools, through very simple techniques. Other things that I like are anonymous work. Okay? So it may be that you have people write on Post-its and place them on a board behind a screen. Online, there's very often an anonymous button that just turns off. Nobody can see what's happening other than what they're doing. And there is no logging, if you set it up correctly, to see who created what. And that means that they can say what they want. We can bring them into the room. It doesn't matter how shy or introverted you are. It's not necessarily yours. You just don't own up to it. Everybody, if they sat there looking at a group of Post-its, they'll know whether or not they created it, but they won't know whether you created it. And that creates its own safety, its own comfort too. And we keep doing this and keep playing with it. Right? It's really incredibly important that we bring everybody into sprint planning. When we're determining what we're going to do, that quiet person in the corner who hasn't said something might have an answer that is vital. Maybe they know a problem. Maybe they've got a better way of solving it. Right? Maybe, right? I don't know. There's lots of things that could come out if we bring them in. They need to be in the discussion about why it matters, generating a sprint goal. A big part of sprint planning is coming up with that goal. And it's so that everybody in the team can get on board. You don't do it to people. They're not passive bystanders. This is a team activity. And as a Scrum Master, we need to be very conscious who's in the conversation and who's not. And if people aren't, I'm not a fan of requiring, but I will definitely offer. So the third tip that I would say, and it is one that I've seen used and abused, is give people the opportunity. And the way that I will often do it is not point at them and say, got anything to say? Because that puts them on the spot and that's uncomfortable and awkward, and just no, don't do it. Okay? So I'll tee them up. Instead of saying, John, what do you think? I'll go, okay, I'm going to start with Peter and I'm going to come to Paul, and then John, I really want to know what you think. But Peter, pick a vocal person, somebody willing to talk. Maybe not the most vocal, but somebody. Outgoing, possibly more extroverted. Start with them. Build it. Give John that opportunity to collect their thoughts, have a think, hear what other people are saying, and they can present something. Maybe they agree, maybe they disagree, maybe, no thanks, like why? Okay. You gave them the opportunity. And for me, this is an important part of it that we do sometimes miss. Equal voice, that opportunity to be heard, is an invitation. Okay? You offer it to somebody, they can say no, and that's okay. They had that chance, and they said no. Respect it. Move on. Okay, thanks, John. Done. Acknowledge it. Move on. Now, if it happens again and again and again, maybe you want to go and have a chat with that person outside of the meeting. I notice you're particularly quiet in these meetings. Is there anything that we can do or I can do to help you? Maybe they're still not comfortable in this forum. Maybe all the facilitation techniques in the world are not going to help you because they don't feel safe. But you can't know that unless you talk to them. Please don't make the assumption one way or the other, because maybe they're just really quiet. Maybe they're having a bad day. There's so many reasons that it could be. We used to do sprint planning on a Monday morning, and that's not my time of week. And people, you're very quiet. The words weren't polite, and I'm certainly not going to say them now. I didn't operate very well before 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. I still don't, if I'm honest. So, we moved sprint planning. But nobody expected it from me. They're like, okay, John's just going to be miserable until he's got enough coffee in him to operate. And that's fine. That's what was understood. We worked that out as a team. Now, we didn't have a Scrum Master when I was doing that, but it would have been much better if somebody had earlier on said, John, you're always grumpy on a Monday morning. What's up? Well, it's Mondays, and I'm practically Garfield. This is what you want to do. Your job as a facilitator is to give everybody the opportunity to be heard. Give everybody the chance to speak if they want it. Play around with the size of the groups you've got. Invite people in. Right? Use the tools to create safety so that they can learn that it is safe to have their say, that it is safe to potentially disagree, that people aren't going to attack them. They're going to discuss the ideas. Our role as a Scrum Master is always going to be one of trying to level the playing field. Some people like to talk. They like a stage. Great, that's good. But some people don't. And they might have a really important point. Our job is to give them that stage in a way that they appreciate, that they can take on board.